sorry, I'm trying to get my camera set up here, so just a second. Oh boy. Hello. Thank you for joining me. So today I'm going to start on a new project like I was saying before. Every week will be pretty much a new project. Sometimes there might be two. But this one is a cabriole leg, which is the S-curved leg. It's got kind of a French flair to it. It's got an inlaid top, which is wood, and I'm going to stain the top because I really like the inlaid look. If they're restained, they're really pretty. I'm going to use 3 different ways of prepping it because this piece, I mean, you can't just take a piece and prep it in one way. Like generally that's pretty rare that you would have that. Like you wouldn't probably all sand a piece. Very, very rarely you would. But this piece, because it has a lot of scroll work in the legs, embellishment, I have to use another product called Ultra Grip, which is a product that is painted on. It dries clear after 12 hours and then it allows paint to stick to it. So I'm also going to show you the top that I've already stripped down because I didn't want you to see me dying of fumes while I was stripping the top because it's really bad. And then the other part would be just scuff sanding it. So 3 different types of prep for this one piece, and each are for a very specific thing. We're also going to tear this down. So whenever I do a piece that has legs that are removable, or bottoms that are removable, or tops that are removable, I always take them apart. I deconstruct them. And then that way when I'm painting around, you know, where the joints are in the legs and that sort of thing, it's not, you know, you're not getting really weird brush marks and things like that up there. So I can do a really smooth brushing out of the paint if I've taken it apart. So that's what I generally do, but I'll show you what I've done with the stripping. We're going to do a little bit of sanding, so you might want to plug your ears when we do that, but I'll show you how I sand. I'm really hoping that my tripod is high enough for you to catch everything, but I'll go over it after and show you a little bit. So, I mean, we might be half an hour, 30, 40 minutes here, so brace yourself. But prep a piece like this, for me to prep properly, to take it apart, prep it properly, and then do the Ultra Grip, do the sanding, all that sort of stuff. Just this one end table, probably 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours. So I'm not doing it all on camera today. I'm just showing you some of the basics of what we're doing. So I will show you, and I'm hoping, I'm going to move this a little bit closer because I want to show you some of the things I've done already. But before we get really going, I want to show you the couple of paints, and I don't know if my wording is backwards. If it is it backwards? Oh, it is backwards. Okay, well, this is a fusion mineral paint. This is limestone, and limestone has a tiny little bit of, it's a white, but it has a tiny little bit of yellow. I don't know if you can really see that. It's really pretty, and I love doing this for sort of French style pieces. This is casement, and casement is more of a pure white, but it has a tiny little bit of a grayish brown undertone, so that might work as well. Then we're going to use dark wax, black wax on the legs to highlight the embellishments when we're done, and we're also going to do a little bit of antiquing on this one, or some people call it distressing as well. So there will be a lot going on there. I want to show you what I'm aiming for here. So if you can see this, that's the end goal, something similar to that. So it's going to be really pretty, isn't it? So let's get started. I'm just going to move this a little bit and get rid of some things here. You probably won't see me a lot face to face now, but just if you keep an eye on what's going on here, I think we should be tall enough to see everything. So I'm going to move it in just a second. What I did here was, I did stripping of this. This is an inlay, and you can sort of see the pattern in here. You don't see it too well right now because it's just a mess. The stripping sort of discolors and bleaches the wood. It's very strong stuff. And then it's very rough and just awful right now. It's just awful. You would never want to paint over it like that. So once you strip it, you take mineral spirits on a cloth and wipe it down, and the mineral spirits deactivates the stripper. The stripper is super caustic, so you have to wear gloves. There's a certain type of gloves for using stripper. They're really thick rubber because it will literally burn through other types of gloves. Trust me, it's happened. So you put the mineral spirits on after you've scraped off the stripper with a spatula. The mineral spirits deactivates the stripper and keeps it from burning the wood any further. And then we sand. So that's the point we're at. So we're going to sand the top here. I'm going to put this back down and hopefully line you up back to where we were. Okay, so that's not too bad there. So I'm going to show you, this is really rough right now. So I'm going to start with an 80 grit sandpaper, and I'm using a rotary sander. So the rotary sander, you have to let go fairly slowly across, about, I think it's like 4 inches or 1 inch per 4 seconds or something like that. It's fairly slow moving, but you don't want to go really fast because this will leave what's called pigtail swirls in the wood, which are little curlicues in the wood that are really hard to get out after if you do that. I've had that happen to me. So I'm going to start with an 80 grit, then I'm going to go to 100 grit, which is, 80 grit's pretty rough. Like it'll get into this really caked on bits of stripper that's still here. 100 grit, and then I'm going to move up to 220, and the 220 is my finishing grit. That should smooth everything off. And once we're done with the 220, then I will go dust it off, and then I will go over it again with mineral spirits to just clean out the wood. And then I'm going to scuff sand it with the 220. And then we'll start taking this apart. But I want to get this all done while it's still on this base. So I am going to put my sander on. So this is my sander. These holes, I know it's a little bit hard to hear me from back there. How's that? These holes here should line up with these holes here. So let me try and get this on. If the holes don't line up, you end up with a whole lot of dust spewing everywhere. And even with the holes lined up, you're still going to get a little bit of dust. Okay, so plug your ears. We're not going to do the sides. We're just going to do the top. I'm just letting it sort of go along by itself, maybe pushing it a tiny little bit. But if you start to push it, that's when you get the curlicues in the wood. So you don't want to do that. You can see it's starting to bring this down. This is super rough. Wow. And this is the 80 grit. So. out to the 100 grit. So that took a lot of the junk off. After you do one round of sanding, take a big brush or something, a cloth, and just dust off all the little grits, because it helps to keep your sandpaper fresh to the wood instead of just smearing around a bunch of sanding dust. So there's one blob here, I'll show you, where it's really dark at the very end there that I missed. So I'm going to work on that a little bit more too when we go this round. I'm hoping it's not hurting your ears. So I'm going to put my, what am I at here? 100 grit on. Take the other one off. Put the 100 grit on, and away we go. If I don't think it's coming down enough, I have to go back with a deeper grit and just really, but it is coming down. So that feels a lot better. The grain on this, because it's an inlay, there's wood going this way, and there's wood going this way, and there's wood going this way. So when I'm feeling it here, I'm feeling actually two grains that are meeting diagonally there. You should wear a mask when you're doing this, but if I wear a mask, you will never hear me. So I can't. Oh, that feels a lot better. So I got the blemish out here. There's still a bit of this white junk from the mineral spirits, so I think I'll go over it in a little tiny bit. Okay, that's pretty good. So also when you're doing sanding, you have to be careful when you get to the edges, because you can do what's called burning or scorching, where your sander hits the edge and it hits it a little bit too much and it scorches the very edge. Then when you go to stain it, it leaves a funny little mark there. I'm gonna put a clip in my hair because my hair is in the road. So, whoop, that would be better. Oopsie. There, nope. Okay. Clip won't hold. It's a hairdresser's clip and it doesn't want to hold. Okay. So I'm going to switch to 220 now, and 220 would be like the highest you want to go before adding stain, because you want, the pores are really wide open right now because of the sanding we've done, but you want the pores to be closed a little bit for stain. Otherwise it might leave big black marks. So let's try this. See if it... Honestly, right now this is perfectly smooth. So that was what I was aiming for, was to get this perfectly smooth. So we're just going to clean it off, and we're going to just wipe it with a cloth. Because I stripped this part, I didn't need to use TSP cleaner on it because it's the stripper cleans it. It literally strips off the top, so you don't need to use it. But for the rest of it, I do need to use TSP. Now that is super smooth, like super, super, super smooth. So what I would do next, if I can find one, is wrap some 220 grit around my sanding block. And I just want to really just give it a little bit of an extra in case I missed any bits. You can actually work on any little bits you might think need a little bit more. And if you go in one direction back and forth like this, even though it's an inlay with 2, 3, 4, 6 different directions, it doesn't matter. But generally you always want to sand with the grain of the wood. Okay. There we go, that's that. Okay, so now that is done, and that we'll get some stuff called wood conditioner, which is, oh lordy, this stuff. Once we're done taking this all apart, I will use some stuff called wood conditioner. And the wood conditioner, this is a Minwax one. Always use wood conditioner after you sand, because what happens is the sanding opens the pores of the wood. Some pores will be open more than others. And then what's going to happen if you just put straight stain on top of it is the stain's going to take in some areas way more than others. this causes the surface to be even again so that the stain takes evenly. So this would be one coat, let it dry for a couple of hours. You could even do another coat. I tend to let it dry overnight because I learned from some wood people years ago that the drier this is, the better. So that's just how I do it, but you can just do it over a 2-hour period. So this is really, really, really nice. I don't know if you can see the top there, but it looks pretty good, right? Okay, so for the rest of this prep, I have a bottle of TSP. It's a little bottle of TSP that Fusion Mineral Paints has. You can get other TSP at the store, but this TSP, and I've mixed it up in my bottle, so you mix a cap full of TSP with a liter of water, I believe it is. I'm sorry, that's backwards. This is my own bottle of mix of it. This TSP, you don't have to remove, like the stuff from the hardware store, I'm not sure what the difference is really even, but you do have to remove it, the TSP after with clear water. With the Fusion Mineral Paint TSP, you don't have to. You just clean your piece and then you're ready to scuff sand. And like I said, for painting, you always have to scuff sand. Unless you're using chalk paint, and I have used a few different chalk paints in the past, and I honestly really don't like them. I don't like how they feel. I don't like all the fussing afterwards that you have to do with them. I just really don't like them. So I use Fusion paint. When I finally discovered it, I just immediately fell in love with it because I've painted and worked with furniture for a few times over the years. Did quite a bit of it years ago, and I just really was always so frustrated with chalk paint because of the fussiness with it afterwards. The whole piece would need to be heavily waxed, and I mean heavily waxed, and then that was just a pain. If you wanted to repaint it, you'd have to re-wax it. I mean, I use some waxing now just as detail wax, but I don't have to wax a whole piece. The black hutch that we just did, I only waxed those doors at the bottom. I didn't wax anything else on it, and it looks just beautiful. So I'm just cleaning this up, and all the TSP does is it very quickly removes any grease, dust, grime. So I haven't cleaned the bottom here yet. Let me just move you down. I haven't cleaned the bottom yet because I'm going to start taking this apart now, and I'll show you how we do that. And I wouldn't TSP this either, but I will show you just how pretty this wood inlay is going to look. So I'll put some mineral spirits on this tabletop, and hopefully you can see that, maybe. And I'll show you what it will look like. I need a cloth. So this is just mineral spirits, and this will bring out any flaws that I have to fix before I go on to stain it. You can use water to do this if you want to, although I don't ever use water on freshly sanded wood, because then it has to dry for quite a long time or overnight, whereas mineral spirits will dry in about 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, so I can see right here that I have to fix some things. So I can't stain this the way it is, because if you look at it, I'm not sure if you can see that. Do you see those white spots? That's still stripper that's on there. And there's some there too. So I can't stain this the way it is. So I have to re-sand that piece. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to move on from that. I'll fix that up after. what I'm going to do now is take this apart. So, like I said, the reason I take it apart is so that everything can be painted, each piece separately and perfectly, because you don't want it to be looking like all smeary. So basically, flip it over. And I'm not trying to scrape up the top, but if I do right now, I'm not too worried because I'm going to sand it one more time. But just be careful with a freshly sanded surface. Okay, so generally these things all come apart. Unless it's a piece like the black hutch we did really recently. The black hutch had nothing that came apart except the doors. So that tells me too it was made quite a while ago. Newer stuff in the last like 40 years or so all kind of comes apart or has these crazy Allen key things. So these are called bun feet because they look kind of like a bun. I'm gonna just clean these quickly and get any dust. Doesn't have to be a super heavy duty cleaning either, just a really good rub down with TSP. The TSP is pretty strong. So this is a bun foot. So we'll take the feet off, all the feet. I hope it's not too boring for you. I'm hoping you learn some things so that you can start doing some pieces. And you know, I used to paint while I was listening to painters, so maybe you could end up doing the same thing. Grab a piece and listen to me yak on about stuff. So I'll clean all those feet after, just for sake of time and not wanting to bore you. I don't want to clean all the feet. This foot has some of the stain and varnish coming off on it here. But with these feet, I could use Ultra Grip and just paint the Ultra Grip on and the paint will stick to it after. But because they have this damage here, I will be sanding this to clean it all up first. So that's just one thing. Now this top should come off, hoping anyway, like that. So now I can take my sander. Actually, I don't have to. I just have to scuff sand this because we're going to paint the bottom. So I just have to clean this and scuff sand it as well. Where'd my cloth go? So spray it with TSP. Some pieces you get in are absolutely filthy dirty. I bought a piece a while back that was in an old garage on a farm. And it was just dirty. Generally when I get something in, I take the vacuum and I tear it apart and I get all the spiders out because things that have been sitting around in barns always have spiders. One time I bought a piece that was a really pretty pie crust table. I think there's a picture of it on my Facebook page. And that I got out of an old workshop, and literally the underside had bird poop all over it, so that was disgusting. And I said to the lady, I said, do you really want this table? And she said, well, if you can clean it up. I said, oh, I can clean anything up. It's just I don't know how you feel about that. So she said to go ahead, and we did, and it turned out really pretty, but a lot of prep work and de-grunging that. Okay, so these legs, look how wobbly. This is how I got it. And oftentimes I'll get a piece that's super wobbly like this. Bring you in a little bit closer. And it'll just be, you know, the lady that I got this from, she said, I don't know what's wrong with it and I don't know how to fix it. But this is, in this case, this is how you fix it, is with an Allen key. So I'm going to get down here and undo these Allen keys, or undo these legs with the Allen key. I always keep a little container, like, I'll show you, like maybe this. I think in this case I'm going to use one of these little bowls and put all of my hardware in it so that I have everything together and I don't lose a piece. Okay. One more screw coming out. Now normally, if I could have found it, I have a drill set that has these that I could put in my little screwdriver, but I couldn't find it this morning. I don't know where it went. So, hurry up. Okay, so there's one leg off. So this leg we will clean up and we'll scuff sand any flat areas, and then any really intricate areas like this where you can't, I mean, you could get in there and sand, but it would take you a month of Sundays to get in there and fix it all up. So we'll use Ultra Grip on that. Any nicks or damage I check for. This has a little nick, but we'll sand that off. So it shouldn't be too bad. The back side is just straight scuff sanding. Scuff sanding is with 220 grit sandpaper. So we'll get these other legs off. And if I had my drill bit with my Allen keys on it, I could do this really fast. These legs are all really loose, and like I said, the lady was mystified as to why her table was so rickety, but that's what it is, you know, if it's not an Allen key or an Allen nut, it's a regular nut. I did a piece not long ago and the bolts were so old that they were the nuts, I mean, were so old that they were the old square kind. Like, I haven't seen those in 100 years. And, goodness, this one's super tight. And they were all super rusty. It was really hard to get them off, but that table was about 100 years old. Okay, come on, let's go. Oh, I really need to find my set. One more. Okay. So when you prep these legs now and then you go to paint them, it's way, way, way easier, and the brush strokes are always really perfect. And you just work each leg individually instead of trying to get up into this join area here where, you know, you're trying to get the paint to match up nicely and it just doesn't work. So this is the way to do it. I do this with big tables, small tables, any kind of table. Take everything apart. Top comes off, legs come off, cross beams come out, anything like that. Okay, one more leg. Ooh. Then we will move on to something else. That one came out easy. That one was barely holding anything in there. And this one feels almost the same. So, okay. So that wasn't too bad. That's all the legs off. And all of the hardware is in here with the Allen key, and I'll put that away. So, this isn't clean. I'll grab the one that is. This is my already clean one. So, to scuff sand again, I just fold a 220 paper. You can use a block, but I find just doing that is just as easy. I kind of wear gloves usually because really you can't keep nice nails with this. It's impossible. So any flat surfaces, I would just scuff up. What you're trying to do is take off the sheen. You see that sheen? So if I scuff it properly, now this is interesting because as I'm scuffing it, look what it's doing. It's taking off the actual varnish too, so That's okay. That's perfect actually. So scuff sanding I will do on all the flat parts, and then I'm going to use Ultra Grip on the really curvy bits. So this is what takes the most time, but I know I heard someone a while back, she said, if you fail to prepare to fail, because you will get your piece home and something will go wrong, or the paint will chip off, or something will just not go well with you. So it's best to really take your time. It does take time to prep these, I have to say. It's not, you know, if you don't prep whatever you're working on, you're probably not going to have a very good result in the end. And that would stink because it's a lot of work, you know, even to get it to a certain point. So you can see the sheen is off. There's no sheen there. And that's all scuff sanding is. So you can see the sheen in the foot and up here in the embellishment. I can't get, even if I do this on the outside of the embellishment, which is fine, I cannot get into these grooves. I mean, you can, but you'd have to take it and individually go bit by bit by bit, and it just would take forever, and then you're not guaranteed. So I will show you how we fix that. So this just gets done, and after we're on camera, I will spend the next day or so finishing up all these bits for sanding, and then we'll do another session of just painting. So we're probably looking at 3 different videos on this one as well, because I like to show you guys the prep, the painting, and the finishing bit. So that way you get an idea. And if you ever do want to get a piece and just paint along with me while I'm yabbering away here, that would be great. I mean, you don't have to always watch what I'm doing, just listen to what I'm doing, I guess. Don't do what I say, do what I do kind of thing. I don't know how that goes. Okay, so if I were to do this for real, I would scuff sand what I could like that, wipe it off. You don't want to use any water or wet because you're just pressing the tooth back in. There's still a little bit of glossiness, so I would, you know, make sure all the glossiness was off. Then I would take, you just want to make sure it's clean. I would take my, if I can find it here. No, I can't find it, just a second. I'm looking for my Ultra Grip, which is way down here, of course it is. Okay. So this is, sorry, it's backwards. This is Ultra Grip, it's a Fusion product. This you can paint into the embellished parts there, and it will cause the paint to stick. This has to dry for 12 hours. So I'll show you how that goes. And I will pour a little bit into another bowl in here. And just use an ordinary little inexpensive chip brush to, you can see me there. These chip brushes are like $1, maybe $2. Sometimes you can get a pack of them for $5, but I usually get 1.5 inch and 2 inch, and I use the 3-inch ones for doing stripper so that I can smear it around quicker. So this is what you do. You dip it into the Ultra Grip. You don't want it, you see it going on white. You don't want it to be white. You just want to smear it out very well. Get into all the little grooves. Can you see that? Get into every little groove and underneath every little groove. Now I don't need to do this whole leg with this. I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I just want to do these really intricate bits. So that's what it looks like. And then let that dry for 12 hours. So I'm going to go to this side where we have the swirls, which would also be very hard to get into, and take my Ultra Grip, sorry, and run it down the leg and up into these creases. You see these creases in the wood here is where you want to get it all. Make sure it's smoothed out. And then we'll go down to the feet, or we'll go, I'm going to flip this over so you can see better. We'll go to the feet, and we're going to do the same exact thing to the feet. I'm hoping you can see this really well. Make sure you get into these grooves here, run along the grooves, into the swirls, not the squirrels, just the swirls. And up onto these grooves in the front. Really smooth it out because it will leave marks, brush marks as well. So just always smooth your work back out. Go into these grooves here. Got a little bit too much in there, so I'm going to dab a bit off. Okay, so that's pretty much covered on that one. This is done. It's a little bit under here. The feet are done. And that is how you would prep one leg. So between the Ultra Grip on the embellished parts and then the sanding, scuff sanding of the flat parts, if I do this to all 4 legs, which I will do, this will be ready to paint after it dries in 12 hours. So if I didn't have to use Ultra Grip, if this had no embellishment, I could just scuff sand and go ahead and paint right away. Now, one other thing I just want to show you is these feet. So this foot has no damage or chips on it like the other one did. So I would just, you should have gloves on for this, but I would just clean this a little bit. Get any dust and grunge out of the seams or the grooves in the wood. Okay. So this bun foot, I can do the same thing with. Just paint it with Ultra Grip. Then I don't have to worry about sanding. And it's so nice because honestly, when you get into these really intricate pieces, and some pieces are just, you know, they have really fine grooves in them and they're really super intricate wood carvings, you don't want to be messing with them and distorting them either. So this would be prepping one of these bun feet with Ultra Grip, and then the paint will perfectly stick to this. There are people who actually do an entire piece with this stuff, I've heard, but I haven't done that, and I don't think I want to do that. I like sanding, and when I sand it, I kind of get to know the piece too. So that's what I will do with those. And then I just want to show you this bit here before we go. So this side that hasn't been prepped, this would get scuff sanded with the 220 grit, which I've lost again. The 220 grit folded up. So I would just scuff sand it, take any varnish off. This piece here has varnish runs from actually the manufacturer. It has a couple of varnish runs on it that nobody cleared up before. There's one there as well. There's a couple of chips that can be sanded down. So any chips, this is the time to sand them out. Any gouges that need to have wood filler, this is the time to put your wood filler in, let it dry, sand it out, so that when you go to paint, everything is perfectly smooth in the way you want it. So again, the prep work is where it's at. If you don't do proper prep work, it's going to look funny, or something's not going to go well. Something's not going to stick the way it should. And it goes pretty fast if you get moving on things, you know kind of what to do, and you're not afraid to just tackle it. The prep work, I mean, it still takes the most time, I think, of the whole piece is the prep work. but it's not that bad. It's kind of, you know, like I said, you get to know your piece, you get to know its personality. I think every piece has a personality. This one definitely has a French personality, particularly because of the French style legs on the piece. So now here I've sanded the corners. You can see the corners look like they've been sanded down, but because we're painting it, that doesn't matter. I'll just keep sanding that. You can also see a little bit of gloss right in these grooves. So what I'm going to do is sand the most part, wipe it down, get all that sanding gunk out of there. So that's how it looks now, right? Then I will take my TSP again, and I'm just going to go in the grooves. So all that does is it guarantees me that when I go to paint, the paint will also adhere in the grooves. Now, if you had a piece where you wanted to distress back the paint in the grooves, and you want it to show this brown, then just leave it like it is, because it'll act as a natural distress. But I want it to be all white paint in those grooves. So I'm putting a little bit of the TSP right in the grooves here. That's what I want it to, where I need it to take up the paint as well. There's no point painting it if it's not going to stick in certain spots because it's not prepped properly. So that is that. So this will be, the rest of it will be done. The top, I will sand a little bit more to get the last bit of that white out, which is from the paint stripper getting deep into the wood. I'll finish sanding the legs and ultra gripping that, and sand the bottom plate, and then we're ready to paint. So that's it. It's going to be beautiful when it's done. The top I'm going to do in a chocolate stain. And then, like I said, we're going to do a white finish on this, and then some antiquing, distressing, and some waxing. It's going to be really pretty when it's done. So I hope you share this video with your friends and family. I'm trying to build up my Facebook followers, because I don't want to be doing this every week for just, 10 followers type thing, but I do appreciate you watching, and share with whoever you can share with, and let them decide if they want to, just watch. There's lots of Facebook people that I like to just watch. I just like to listen to them, whether I actually do what they're doing or not. I just like to listen to them. So, but share it with your friends and family, and do comment, leave comments. I can't always see them when I'm doing this because my phone is small, but leave comments, and then I'll answer them afterwards. And then when we get our YouTube channel going, when we get our Facebook page built up, the YouTube videos will be remixed and things added into them, so there'll be a little bit more information, detail. So thank you for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. And I'll talk to you in a couple of days, and I will post when we're going to be on next, when we're ready to get started with this. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.